All right, what's up, everybody? We have another Tesla Beat podcast. This is number 15. I can't believe 15 weeks has literally already gone by. It's been an awesome opportunity to just provide you with great updates. This week, we have a couple of partners in crime missing. Some may actually join in a little bit. And Amy's here with us for a short time. As you know, she's one of our regular co-hosts. Joe could not make it for personal reasons, and I think Jeff should be joining in a little bit. But you all know Amy at SF under 3_ Tahoe. And this week it is July 7th, and obviously this is the week after deliveries that happened, and we're going to provide you with a bunch of updates. There was even some breaking news this morning and last night. So we're going to get you all caught up, but we have two special guests. We have the infamous Alexandra, our actual boots on. This shouldn't be your intro, but it is as of late. You're our boots on the ground in Santa Barbara to literally disprove Dan O'Dowd on all of that stuff. But also too, she is an amazing asset to the community with her deep dives on Substack, along with just all of her knowledge in stocks given her career. We also have the infamous Farzad. He runs his own channel. He's an ex-Tesla employee and just covers Tesla pretty regularly, pretty much every day at this point now. So thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you, John.
Thank you for having us.
So great to have you guys.
And thank you for not telling me that Farzad was coming.
Yeah. Actually, we planned it.
I know.
He's one of my he's in my Swiss Army knife, so I like to pull him out without telling people about it. he's in that Rolodex. Well, awesome. So thank you both for joining us. We'll just quickly look at the stock performance. It's pretty much flat today, but over the past month, we're up 23%. Again, they're reaching about a $900 billion market cap. Again, as mentioned every week, we just show this just so you can kind of get a pulse. This got, within the past 6 months, it got to a low of $101. I think that's pretty just insane. And just seeing this huge rebound, especially more recently, given the NACS, the Q2 deliveries, and obviously everything else that has been going on. But really, the news of the week is really coming down to Tesla vehicle production and deliveries. We know that they delivered over 466,000 cars, which is an 83% growth rate. Again, the reason for the growth, a lot of it is because Giga Shanghai was shut down for part of the quarter Q2 last year, but still 83%. And they also produced about 480,000 cars. So this was about a 4% beat to the street, but I would love to just I know, again, Farzad and Alexandra, you probably had a lot of conversations this week on, the beat, but I would love for both of you to chime in along with Amy as well, and just give us your perspective and thoughts. And maybe they're even a little bit more well thought out, given a week has almost gone by.
Yeah, maybe I'll start. I mean, this will be the year we'll see actually Tesla triple, right? So there are a couple of people in the community who will actually be very happy. The delivery numbers were impressive, but they were even more impressive now that we have the competitors' numbers, and I'm sure Farzad knows much more about them because he's analyzing them really in detail. So it's when I hear people say, yeah, fair enough, but it was Q2 last year, which still had pandemic impact. Sure. But when you compare it now to what competitors are doing, there is just, there's no stopping for Tesla. And that brings me to this morning's news with Mercedes now joining the supercharger network as well. I mean, the dominoes are falling one after the other. And I wish the competitors were better and in a better state, but they are not. And Tesla is performing, and the media is still trying to hide it as much as they can. But it's just so obviously, blatantly clear in front of everybody. It's a joy to see. I actually think the stock is going to go much higher. I expect very good earnings on the 19th. and really hope that the earnings call goes well, so that for once we're staying in this momentum and not trying to suppress it anymore.
Yeah, I agree 100% with Alexandra. I think the point about it, if you compare Tesla's performance to the competition, it's already impressive, but it's even more impressive if you look at like a Ford, for example. Their Mach-E sales are struggling quite a bit. They're not really going anywhere. And then I think they've gone down slightly, but a lot of that is because of their Mexico shutdown. They have a plant down there, and they're trying to revise it to be able to do more Mach-E's in the future. But that thing has been kind of down for the last, I don't know, 3 to 5 months. And I would be shocked if they restarted with additional production, given the pricing disparity between that vehicle and the Model Y. But that's not just a Mach-E problem. That's an everybody problem. And it doesn't really speak, this is not me saying they have bad cars. I actually think the Mach-E is a cool looking car. I've been in one, and it's actually nice. It's a nice car. I see Ioniq 5s out here. I see Kia EV6s. But the ratio of those cars to the Model Y specifically, at least in my area, is insane. And we saw that with numbers, again, once Q2 finished, and you look at the performance of that car, especially in the US versus its competition. Model Y, Model 3 are selling the rest, are selling like something like 20x more than the rest combined, or 2 times more than the rest combined, or something exactly. I think a lot of us thought, if anything, all of us thought that Tesla would arrive to this point of market domination, especially in certain markets. But when it happens, it's still surprising to see, because you would think, okay, somebody's going to come along and not allow this weird thing to happen that hasn't really been seen before in the auto market. So super great news, but the competitor's not doing that great, and a host of other things related to the company. It seems like we're in a zone now where you have a lot of positive news, and sometimes they're like, okay, yeah, I expected that, but that really speaks to the domination of the company. So it's just great to see. It's really great to see. Oh, Amy's reaching for the mute button. Nice.
Yeah, I have to. I don't want you guys to hear the AC in the hotel room. I completely agree with both Alexandra and Farzad. I think they made excellent points. For me, the biggest news story is Model Y. We don't have all the official numbers in, but it looks like Model Y will once again be the best selling car in the world for quarter 2. Quarter 1 was the first quarter that was the case. Tesla's price cuts got a lot of attention when they were happening, but Model Y is now consistently tracking underneath the average sales price of a new car in the United States. It's putting it at that affordable price point that's allowing it to dominate and being the number 1 selling car in the world, which is really impressive because it still is an expensive car. So it's topping the Toyota Corolla, topping the Toyota RAV4. And the Toyota Corolla is a less expensive car than the Model Y is, but people are doing that Tesla stretch, and they're making it the number 1 selling car in the world. And this is what Tesla's doing in sales before the Cybertruck comes out, before the Gen 3 platform comes out, and before the refreshed Model 3 comes out. So it was an unbelievably good quarter. I do think that margins may still be a little bit depressed. Tesla was going to be renegotiating these supply deals this summer. So not all the supply deals will have been renegotiated for this last quarter. So with the guidance going forward on what their margins is going to be, once they have these supply deals renegotiated and all those COVID costs come down, I think is going to be an important metric. And I hope that Wall Street pays attention to it.
Yeah, I agree with everyone's sentiment. I mean, especially a little bit with Farzad in that, I still think it's going to be potentially a year or 2 years before you have any really like solid competition. I mean, if you really look at where the Model Y is compared to the rest of the competition, you have the Model Y literally selling more vehicles than all of the other non-Tesla ones literally combined. And so it's pretty impressive just to see where Tesla has come. I mean, you're talking 4 or 5 years ago, this company was barely making it. And so even though they're killing it now, I mean, we're going to be probably saying this all year. The Model Y is the best selling car, as Amy put it. But I think it's just one of those things where so much hard work goes into continuously executing. I personally was not expecting this big of a beat. I was even potentially expecting a little bit of a miss potentially just because of the recession. And clearly the recession is not stopping people from buying cars. I definitely still thought the Model Y was going to do very well. So, it just seems like people are still buying cars. People are still paying 2x the price for more than a Toyota Corolla to buy the best car on the road. So, it was wonderful news, especially to start the second half of the year off with, especially given the recent news we've had in June. So it kind of would have been a little bit of a bummer, especially with them essentially capitalizing the standardization of the NACS and then to kind of come up with a miss. But just huge shout out to the Tesla team. I mean, they're working ruthlessly hard. I mean, I think we all get to watch this happen, and just talk about all of their work, but they're the boots on the ground really making this happen. So I was thoroughly shocked just to see that happen. I personally, again, thought the recession was going to have a little bit more headwinds, and I was completely wrong.
Yeah. If I can add, just piggyback on that thought real quick. So if you take that and you extrapolate that out into the next couple of years, so even in an environment where we have higher interest rates, and yeah, people are buying cars, but they are buying more Model Ys than anything else. And so that says to me that the cost equation to a percentage of the population, they've already kind of figured it out, because most people buy based on how much they can save and how much value they get for what they're buying, right? A significant percentage of the population. And this is before the truly affordable car in the $25,000 model. So the way I'm thinking about Tesla's success for the next 5 to 10 years is that even in a downward economic environment, Tesla is going to be able to sell its cars no problem, like zero problem. It becomes a question of how much margin are they willing to give up. And so I had a little bit of a reservation when I'm thinking about how bad of a recession we may have this year. I'm like, well, maybe Tesla sales will go down because, they'll have to say, okay, I'm not going to take that big of a margin hit. I need to shutter production. But we know that's not their plan, and they're acting on that plan as well. So depending how bad I still feel like this recession thing I'm like up in the air. It's like such a confusing time, It's such a confusing time.
Is
it's
it a recession?
Very confusing.
Not.
I have
it's
no
crazy,
idea.
Right? It's crazy.
Really
And
crazy.
I agree with you. I mean, the job numbers yesterday, ADP so strong. Today, the official numbers so weak, the weakest since 2020. So you just sit there and go, so who is lying? Who is manipulating? Who is trying to give us a message? Is this all preparation to the Fed action? It doesn't make any sense. So that's the first point. The recession itself never made any sense. It was a question of, how do we get out of this pandemic? How does the economy restructure? How do the fundamental changes, the attitude to work from home, how did that all change in a society, and how does it finally trigger through in old style numbers that are still used in this economy? So that's one point. The second point I wanted to make, I think it's now completely established that the Model Y is about 2/3 of the sales of Tesla. I mean, can you imagine 2/3? No other automaker ever made that you had one car that makes 2/3 of your sales. Everybody else always felt obliged to diversify, to do 25 different colors, to do different headlights, whatever, to cater to a clientele. And Tesla just proved in the automotive industry what Apple proved in the phone industry. The simpler you make it, the easier it is for a client to identify with it and to adopt it. And you don't need to do all these variants. And you can then have the economies of scale that comes with having one workhorse model that just fits nearly every foot, every shoe. So I think that's, I mean, all credits to them having seen that, having taken that risk. And 2 years ago, Elon told us, you just watch out, 2023 is going to be the year where Model Y is going to conquer the world. And here we are. So they saw it, they did it, and they had the guts to go through with it.
Yeah, go for it, Amy.
I was just going to piggyback off of what both of Alexandra's and Farzad's excellent points, and that is when you look at a possible recession, the fact that Tesla has put themselves in the financial position that they are in, we'll see how much cash they have when we actually get the numbers, but we'll say $22 billion in cash, might be up to 24 billion. We'll see what it is. Very low debt. They have the money to be able to go down to a zero margin. They can unlock, and now actually Wall Street is beginning to believe it. They can unlock a lot of profit on every car they sell through services, through the supercharger network, through selling FSD. And so it's just in a way delaying that margin until later, which is a powerful position for Tesla to be in, because Tesla doesn't have to sacrifice their growth plans. They are still on track right now, whether Wall Street believes it or not, to produce 20 million cars in 2030. And I think you would have seen a pretty big multiple hit on the stock if those growth plans went away. And that's not happening. That also means that Tesla is operating the factories at the design utilization. That keeps all their costs lower. It also keeps all those supply deals in place. Well, there's going to be jockeying for lithium. There's going to be jockeying for manganese. There's going to be jockeying for all these different materials. And Tesla already has the biggest suppliers locked up in these long-term contracts. And they're able to, in a downturn, tell the suppliers, we'll take everything you can give us. And that's a very powerful position to be in.
Yeah, and I would say too, I work in the tech industry, and I think that's probably why I've personally felt the recession more so than probably most, just because of the fact that it's been hit so hard. A lot of these companies way overhired during the pandemic. Everyone was hitting all-time profits, revenues, and so a lot of these companies that weren't necessarily well oiled. I love how I use that, but like they just were not very, prepared or hadn't gone through any major downturns. And I think they were just expecting potentially the new norm for a long time. So they overhired. And so I think what you're seeing happen is these companies, specifically in tech, just laying off tens of thousands of employees. So that's probably why I feel it. But yeah, it's weird because it's like there's indicators, like even in the banking industry, there's indicators of a recession, but then there's other industries where it's just doing very well. Like again, Alexandra, you mentioned the jobs, or Farzad, you also mentioned it as well. And then the one other thing I wanted to say, I believe it could have been Alexandra or Farzad, you had mentioned just how Apple created something that was just super simple. And that's the one thing that is crazy. Yeah, Alexandra had mentioned that. But that was just the one thing that's been crazy about watching Tesla over these past 4 years, just being in the weeds, is just seeing them release trims, remove trims, add various things, delete even aspects of the car. I remember it was like something in the Model 3 and Model Y was like the adjustments of the seats. There's just a lot of things that they can literally look at because their car is a piece of software. They can look at what are the aspects of the car that people are using and the pieces of the car that they aren't. And so they can optimize and just really just make the car what it needs to be, whether it's simplistic, remove parts to save money. And also too, they obviously did that with their supply chain by making these iron castings, and literally they would be on the line and, at the beginning of the line, they're deleting parts or deleting things that need to be, put on the car, and they're not talking to the people literally further down the line or, in various parts of the company. And so it just, I can't think of another company that has been more well prepared to navigate through a recession with the money that they have in the bank, as Amy said, and then also to just a business model that can easily adapt up or down to what the needs of their customers are. So yeah, I just
maybe let me add. Maybe let me add. This has been the last 10 days again on Twitter, a real mudfest with Tesla Q. I mean, they have been throwing out at us anything you can think of, including, which I think was the most ridiculous, that Tesla will need a capital raise to build the new factories. I mean, Amy is probably gonna have a good laugh with this one because she knows very well how strong the financials are. But why do I insist on that? it's, when they get out, they've been burned a lot, right? They went short at 150, thinking it would go below 100. Now we're at 278 or 280 again. So these people have been hurt a lot. These delivery numbers on Monday were exactly what they did not expect. They had hoped it would be much below 440. And so they're just trying to open the book of bears, throwing words out there, making stories up. That's why you see the press also hyping and overhyping, threads, hyping and overhyping GM and Ford and whatever else there is out there. So just want to tell everybody in the community, ignore it, let it pass. It's difficult times for them. When we come to this level of desperation, it means Tesla is doing stuff the right way. Just don't get impressed by all this.
Well, we have another regular, Jeff. How's it going?
Hey, good. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can. I thought, maybe what we could do is just get your thoughts on deliveries on the beat this past quarter. And that's where we're just kind of wrapping up that conversation.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to kind of be a part of that Tesla supply chain right now, because I think number one, first off, huge accomplishment in terms like the deliveries involved. I put a tweet out. It's really a team sport to get to these kind of record-breaking deliveries and exceeding expectations. It's not just getting parts into the factory. It's not just the factories building the product. It's also the engineering team that's involved with a lot of the different changes to improve yields, to substitute parts. And oh, by the way, what are they doing in the background? They're reducing their COGS. They're putting changes, systemically in the factory throughout the quarter. While you think about it, they're going for record-breaking numbers in the quarter, around 480K production, and they're introducing changes. This isn't actually a very stable operation, because they know they've got to dramatically reduce their COGS to do that. So to be able to do that and take your production numbers that much higher. Now it's probably the last quarter it'll be below 500,000 units if you think about it. And I love the discussion earlier too about a recession. There isn't a recession right now on the auto side. I think there could be recessions in pockets, right? There's a recession right now happening in the freight industry. Inventories are really high. Trucking rates and freight lanes from a shipping perspective, ocean perspective, are extremely low, and they're in recessionary levels. If you talk to anybody in that industry, there's pockets of recession. But what is that? That's bringing the COGS down significantly. So I think from an auto industry perspective, I've studied this, and in the pretty deep, dark recession in 2008, there was about a 16% drawdown in year one, and then a 36% total drawdown in the latter half of that. And then 2009, that's when GM actually filed for bankruptcy. So what do you have going? I don't think there's going to be an EV recession. Even if there's an auto recession, if you look at the growth rate of EV globally, it could outstrip that any kind of drawdown you may see in auto. So I've been talking about this for the last, almost a year, that I don't think that would happen. And what I am a little bit surprised at, and I think Farzad was touching, just how strong total auto is in the first half. I think it's 7.8. I think they've upped the SAR now to 16 million units on the year. It was 15 million just over a quarter ago. So yeah, I mean, the job report this morning was mixed. I think Alexander really summarized it well, because you have just two sides of yesterday versus today. But from a private payroll perspective, it's showing us, it's the lowest number actually since 2020. And that curve doesn't look very good. So I hope the Fed may go in July, but I hope this really has them reconsidering what they do in October and for the rest of the year, and how they start messaging, because I think the job market, could be heading in the wrong direction. But overall for Tesla on the delivery numbers, I mean, just fantastic. And like I said, if you look into the second half, maybe we'll get into that later in the call. I really feel good about the position they're in, just based on what they've been able to do this past quarter.
Jeff, and what do you make of the fact that the auto market is actually strong, as you explain, yet they're getting no ramp up on the EV side, and even losing numbers they have been doing last year. It's isn't that astonishing? I mean, after all these promises and all these PowerPoint presentations to whoever wanted to listen to them, that they can't get their act together.
Yeah, they have a decision they have to make because right now they still have pent up demand on the combustion engine cars from the prior 2 years of really supply chain, misexecution. Tesla had parts. Tesla was able to scale their production even through the pandemic, and even Toyota in the last quarter was calling out, issues with chip shortages. So I think they're still kind of burning through some pent up demand. People wanted to buy cars over the last couple of years and they couldn't. But you have to ask yourself at some point that that does level out. Normally, the U.S. auto market is 15, 16, 17 million units. So this is pretty strong. But what they're doing is they're. I mean, if you look at the gross margin picture, I mean, GM hasn't broken out EV gross margin. We know it's terrible. And we know both GM and Ford actually under-delivered in Q2 versus what they guided for. Rivian is showing relative strength, but even Rivian's, their last data point, I think there was at minus 80% gross margin. So they've got some work to do to get to break even. But yeah, it's going to be difficult to scale in this high interest rate environment to put out new capital in a way that are you gonna accelerate as an EV manufacturer, it's a legacy manufacturer? Are you gonna accelerate capital expenditure and ramp up labor and hiring to produce cars that bring back negative gross margins? And the answer to that in this environment is no. This isn't 2 or 3 years ago. So they're in a real pickle. And I hope the analyst community wakes up. I know the last Ford call, they really started drilling them on EV and like, what's going on? You said this would be a lot better. And one final point is, if you look at the days of inventory of legacy auto manufacturers and you look at EV versus non-EV, their EV numbers are almost double their non-EV cars, which means they actually have supply in many situations, but they actually don't have the right product and the right that consumers want to buy. They're buying Model Ys.
And had a couple of fleet deals. I remember the Domino's deal with the Bolts, right? 800 or 1,000. I don't remember exactly the number. So given all the small good news that came in, the results are just disaster. They're not catching up. Tesla's market share is increasing. Adoption rates are increasing. I mean, I hear you that they have to survive, and to survive, their strategy makes sense, but it's so short-sighted.
Well, let me add it.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jeff. Go ahead. Sorry.
Please. No, please go ahead.
Oh, okay. So, John, do you mind throwing up that chart again with the Model Y, Model 3, the Chevy Bolt with the bars?
Yeah.
So
let me find it.
Yeah. So here's sort of encapsulates what the problem is, and this is, I think, a trend into the next decade, and why legacy is such a big trouble. And this is an early signal. So the Chevy Bolt, which is the third one, is a $28,000 car, $27,000 car, discontinued this year. So they will stop shipping it at the end of this quarter. So basically, this is the list that we're working with. Okay, Tesla Model Y, newcomer, first place. Tesla Model 3, newcomer, second place. Remove the Chevy Bolt. What's in third place? A $90,000 pickup truck from a newcomer, right? So the top 3 spots in the United States are all newcomer automakers, right? And then what's after the Rivian R1T, the Volkswagen ID4, which averages around 35 to 40,000 after an EV tax credit, and then after the Ford Mustang Mach-E. So the signal that I see here from this data set is that even in an environment where automakers have competing products for electric vehicles, the legacy automakers are not selling nearly as much as they should because of either consumers don't think their product is good, or the automakers are not offering something that is a good value for money, right? So like the Ford Mustang Mach-E is a perfect example. I actually think it's a good car, but it's way too expensive when you have a Tesla Model Y in the play, like out there being sold, and that car is getting half the credit on the Model Y because of how they've sourced the materials because of the EV tax credit, right?
The Tesla price cuts killed them.
Killed them.
This shows it. This shows exactly the effect of the last 6 months of price cuts.
You look at the Model X; it's essentially double the MSRP of a Mach-E, and it almost eclipsed it. Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, Farzad, when customers want a truck, they're buying a Rivian. I mean, that's what the data says. And when they want a sedan, they're buying a Tesla. The Hyundai Ioniq Q, I think, is getting good reviews, but it doesn't get the IRA credit. And this is, this is a year where customers go in, buy a car, and if they qualify for the IRA credit, they get it on a tax return maybe next May or June of next year. They drive off the lot and they have a year basically of they have the high car payment. They don't have that 7,500 in, but come January, they're going to drive off the lot with the 7,500 in their pocket. And so that's what I'm saying. The EVs. I don't think there's going to be an EV recession. I'll just call it here. I don't think there's going to be an EV recession. There's just going to be continued migration from ICE to EV.
Yeah, actually, I never thought of it like that. That's crazy. Just thinking like, really ultimately, it's not going to be a demand issue. It's just literally going to be taking sales away from the ICE cars, which, Elon has always said that the competition is the ICE car, not necessarily like the EQS or the Mustang Mach-E. But yeah, it's just pretty radical when you look at this chart and you think of the major competitors, and really there's tens of other car brands like the EQS, the BMW like the iX4, like all of those other additional brands that aren't even making this list, that are still slowly ramping. But at the end of the day, it's just when you look at buying a Mustang Mach-E versus the Model Y, even still now, even in 2024, you're looking at potentially a product that has superior or inferior software. The charging network will not be completely up and running until, again, a year from now or early 2024. And so and the price is, a lot more. So it's just more of like the incentives to buy a Mustang Mach-E, and even some of these the Volkswagen ID4 and some of the other options out there. Again, the Chevy Bolt is going away. It just makes more and more sense. And at some point, the Toyota Corolla has held the crown. I mean, I remember growing up, the Toyota Corolla was just the car that you go buy, the Honda Civic, just because it was so reliable. And the Model Y is essentially becoming that. It's just going to become one of those things. And people are going to get to a point where they're just like, you know what? I don't want the thing that everybody else has, even though it's literally the best car, the best option for you to go and buy, right?
And what's even more interesting, so piggybacking what you're saying, and Jeff, what you mentioned earlier, that if somebody wants to buy an EV sedan, they buy a Model 3. If they want an EV pickup, they buy a pickup truck. But then think about the gas car market and what it looks like right now. So every single segment has a gas car, but which ones are the ones that are truly profitable, especially in an environment where EV is going to be pulling share from gas car? It's really just the pickup truck and maybe the SUV. So if you fast forward about 3 to 5 years, as EVs continue to grow, and who are the players that can manufacture EVs profitably that are not pickup trucks and not SUVs? It's really only Tesla. And if you think about what is the true benefit of an electric vehicle long term, is the cost per mile equation, is that it's a cheaper car to own. And so if you're an automaker that can build a cheap car to own profitably, you win. So what I think is going to happen in the next 3 to 5 years is that the electric vehicle, if you want to buy a sedan or say an SUV or a compact car, the only one you're going to be able to buy is going to be electric, because the gas car one doesn't make a profit. Sedans don't really make a profit for automakers. Compact cars definitely don't make a profit for automakers, right? And so this is how the auto segment should evolve through this decade. So we'll still have gas pickup trucks as Rivian and Tesla and Ford and whoever else ramp up their EV pickup trucks. But I expect the Corolla at some point to be discontinued. I expect the sedans to be discontinued in favor of those electric vehicle models. And you could have these legacy automakers that are going to, in order to survive the decade, they're going to have to massively cut the type of segments and products they push to their lines to remove that complexity, kind of like what Ford did. So the Ford model is going to be adopted by other legacy makers, I expect. So that's the kind of, I think, landscape we're gonna be in. I don't know if you guys agree with that or not, but that's what it's looking like based on this data.
Yeah,
Couple
it
of tough
definitely
years
feels that
ahead,
way.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to make one other quick comment. If you're able to pop that chart up again and just put yourself in the chair of kind of the head of sourcing or supply chain for Tesla, and you're walking into a supplier meeting. Let's say you're Steel Dynamics or whomever, and you walk in with charts like this, and you put them down on the table. And it's not to brag. It's just to say, look, we told you. Here's our demand. So you come in with your own internal charts of like, hey, we gave you this demand signal a year ago, and look at this is what we're actually doing. And oh, by the way, when you put a chart up like this, you're actually showing what the competition is doing, which is not a whole lot. And you use this information. They've got great information and great leverage with their supply base. I think Amy brought up the point earlier about Model Y, becoming the number one selling car. I think sometimes if you think about it purely from a supply chain perspective, that's a very powerful thing, because sometimes people look at Toyota volumes or GM volumes and they're like, wow, they're shipping millions of cars, but they're shipping, and Alexander brought this point, where they're shipping it over like 25, 30, 50, 100 SKUs. So the run rate at those suppliers per SKU is actually a very small number. Whereas if they get a Tesla part award, they're going to get, for this year, they're going to get if you're sole sourced on Model Y, you're going to get a 1.3 million unit award this year. That's going to stretch into the following year, and it's going to grow to 2 million potentially, or maybe 1.8 to 2 million. And that's the most powerful auto award you can get in the industry. And I don't think people realize that the leverage that they have over their supply base just on their current portfolio, and then they flash up their future portfolio, which is very public, Gen 3 models, Cybertruck, and so forth. You'd be very excited. Now walk into that same meeting in your GM or your Ford, and you've got this big legacy business, but you've actually misled a lot of your supply base in terms of what you're going to do in EV. You've told them things over the last 5 years that haven't materialized. Those suppliers capitalized for you. They hired people. They set up an operation, and you're not shipping the volume. And I guarantee you, they're not taking the parts from those suppliers or telling them to hold them. So it's the tale of two tapes, and I think it's very powerful for folks to understand of like where this could go from a COGS perspective for Tesla. I believe there will be an acceleration in COGS reduction that will surprise many analysts that really don't do a good job of actually doing the supply side and COGS side analysis, in my opinion, and probably could improve in that area.
Yeah, no, it's pretty incredible. I think, also too, something that comes to mind, and with these amazing deliveries, is shout out to Sawyer, but he posted something from, I think it's Paloi. So shout out to them for the chart. But all that to say is that literally Giga Shanghai, produced or delivered over 247,000, which is over half of what Tesla delivered as a whole company. So,
And the run rate, the run rate of Shanghai is now well over 1 million per year. This is absolutely crazy.
yeah, exactly. So shout out to that team, because I know that they've been working hard, and but it's just truly incredible just to see, because I don't think people really understand how big Giga Shanghai has become a part of that market. And they're even shipping obviously to Canada, because it's just cheaper from, they're able to get the incentives, specifically the Model Y. But that team is just cranking out at an insane rate right now. there's any thoughts, feel free to chime in. Otherwise, I can hit the next topic.
I think the China one is interesting because of the news that broke around Tesla and a bunch of automakers signing an agreement with the Chinese government to not be don't be too good with your pricing now. That was basically the agreement, right? To really uphold I guess socialistic values it was one of the bullet points. What's interesting here is that it really highlights the pricing power of Tesla, even in a region, especially in a region like China, where the Shanghai factory is their most profitable factory, their most efficient factory, and it's really set up to get the cars out into the world as quickly and as cheaply as possible. What's interesting about this agreement, though, and I was watching part of Stephen Mark Ryan's video this morning. If this causes any issues in China from a local selling perspective, because this basically what this says is, hey, Tesla, you can't go too low. You're just going to have to make more money. Sorry, we just won't be able to be too price competitive. That factory is set up to be a exporter as well, right? So the rate of production and Shanghai's growth, the factory, should continue to increase into the coming quarters, regardless of that dynamic. They'll just sell it internationally, which might open up other markets that maybe they were waiting on if this dynamic causes any sort of hurdles. It's just something I wanted to bring up.
Yeah,
I thought it was a gift. Oh, sorry, Amy, go ahead.
I have something quick to add there. My understanding is that they are going to be able to offer incentives. Tesla came immediately out after this news and amped up the Chinese referral program. And that is a way to give buyers incentives, and to best form of advertising has always been Tesla's own customer. And then the second piece of news we had coming out of Giga Shanghai, because I have a flight, so I'm going to have to leave here in a second, is that they are laying off battery assembly workers in Giga Shanghai. There were 3 assembly lines for batteries. This from the first assembly line that they built. That's the most manual line. That's the one where they're taking the workers away, because they think that they can, number one, ramp up volume production on the second line, so make it more productive and not need the people. And then the second thing that's going on here is this is an indication that Highland is getting a lot closer, because what we know that Highland is going to have from many leaks is an M3P battery. We know it's going to have a structural pack. CATL has 3 different types of structural packs and probably many levels within that. So we're not quite sure which of CATL's structural pack is going to be. One report said the New Zealand, which between the M3P is coming in at about 700 kilometers of range. The Sheelan pack is 1,000 kilometers of range. You're getting reports of something anywhere from 60 kilowatt hours to 72 kilowatt hour battery. So we really won't know the precise specs until it comes out. But this is going to be a powerful car. An LMFP technology is cheaper, it's fire resistant, it will charge quick, it will have greater range. And this will be something I'm just waiting for Tesla Q to try and spin it. Oh, Tesla is laying off workers, but they're laying off workers in a very specific group, because that's how much their COGS is coming down, and that's how much of the production process that they're removing, that they don't have a place to move those workers to, even though they're ramping up production, because they're going to be buying structural packs. You don't need to assemble a pack with a structural pack. If you're going to dual castings, you're taking away many stations in the factory. I'm interested in Jeff's opinions on how that process will usually work in a factory.
Yeah, no, I thought it was great. It was a great point, great analysis of kind of what they're doing. That is what they're doing. You're constantly evolving, and Tesla is like the shining example of being able to roll these changes in pretty quickly. And what you would, when you're going to increase automation internally, you're going to reduce labor. It's just going to happen. It happens in other industries as well. I've watched a pretty big transformation on a particular product line. It's very popular that people are using today, putting in their ears. And I'll just tell you that when you do that, you will reduce headcount, but then they're also making this transition to, if pack production is going to be external, and come in, that way, and they have that partnership set up with cattle. I mean, that's great. That's a great setup for Tesla, and they can take kind of their engineering and start moving it over into other areas. Their factory engineering work in other different areas. So this is good on the COGS front. This is good on several different fronts. And cattle's got, right now it's believed that they have excess capacity. So I'm assuming they're striking a fairly good deal. And then Tesla, you have to go back to that certainty of supply and that certainty of demand that they have. So when you're a supplier to Tesla, they give you a number. They're not going to push that supply. They're not going to push an inventory back to you. So you're going to build and put the capacity in place, and they're going to put penalties on you if you don't do it. So I actually thought that was great analysis, Amy. I loved it. And I thought that the pricing thing in China, I think it was a gift for Tesla, because first off, there are other avenues. It could be incentives or insurance or so forth. There are things that they can do, but they're going to introduce new models to take their MSRPs down. So remember, BYD is already there with a sub $30,000 vehicle, and that's what's driving a lot of their numbers up, right? Tesla is even participating in that price tier. So now Tesla is going to participate in that price tier, very soon, and then over the next couple of years with Gen 3. And, that's the way that they're going to address the market and the pricing challenges out there, new models, which is great for an OEM.
I gotta go because I have a flight back home. But
Bye.
thanks, you guys. It was
Thank
so
you very
interesting.
much,
That was a
Amy,
good
and thank you
day.
for your good research on batteries. This is just
But
so good. Thank you.
When I'm not flying the airplane, it doesn't wait for me.
Oh yeah, true.
Yeah.
That's a bummer.
Yeah, it is.
Autopilot. See it.
I'm used to not having to worry. The plane's going nowhere without me normally.
Take care.
All right. Thanks to Amy. She's got to catch a flight, but yeah, no, I think Jeff, you were bringing sharing some really good knowledge along with Amy as well, really on the batteries and what they're doing there. But it's just I think the other thing I wanted to mention was just we see there's videos even literally that came out today from Cybertruck and Z. Shout out to him for literally just sharing a lot of videos and clips. And this is also from him too. There's a video of a Cybertruck in a minute, but they're testing in New Zealand. And so we just know that this is pretty much close to the final. This is close to the final stages of really just getting these things ready. So they're just making final tweaks. There were some other videos of it actually going over like a frozen pond or frozen lake with the camo on it. So we're getting closer and closer to these two products being released. So you're probably going to have a delivery event for the Cybertruck. You're probably going to have an announcement of a refreshed Model 3. There's all the indicators of this happening. Again, it's funny because it's like I live in the Bay Area and yet I'm seeing all of these like sightings. And so I feel like whenever I'm at home, I'm like wasting my life because I should be on the road trying to find these. But unfortunately, I can't be on the road like the Kilowatts or some of the other people that are just seeing these Cybertrucks all over Mountain View, Palo Alto, and Fremont. But we are getting closer and closer to these two big announcements / events that are happening probably this quarter, if not this half. So, and then I think just some other news this past week we had was the Tesla Malaysia is going to start selling this month as well. So they're opening up a new market. And I believe maybe both y'all can keep me honest here. I believe they're like going to be the first OEM coming from like outside the country and selling into it. I thought I read an article or a headline on that, but I think it's a pretty big deal. The fact that they're actually going to be turning on sales in Malaysia. Jeff, sorry, I thought you were going to chime in or something.
No, no. If you look at what Tesla's been doing, I've made this point. I'm going to continue to make it because I don't think a lot of people in the community maybe even realize this, that EVs overall have really low penetration globally, and Tesla has even lower. So it's not like when people talk about EV demand or talk about Tesla demand, they're like, oh, they must be having, an issue here or there. And there could be issues in pockets, but those are issues in the areas that they're playing in today. There's so many areas of the world that they just haven't been opened up into. India, South America, major countries in South America, Brazil, Argentina, and so forth, because a lot of these economies are protectionist in nature. Indonesia, protectionist in nature. India. So if you've seen what Tesla's done in the last, I want to say 6 months, I've heard, Turkey, I've heard Thailand, I've heard Malaysia, and all these different launch areas. What's going to happen is these are additional delivery nodes, new countries, and everybody should calm down. There's going to be a little bit more inventory because you're going to start delivering cars to the tiny island of Malaysia. You have to put them somewhere. So these little inventory nodes grow, but guess what? Their production's growing and their deliveries are growing. So this is great to see. EVs, again, the story is really, really in the early stages.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. I think even Sawyer broke the news this morning. It's kind of more SpaceX related, but they're going to allow SpaceX to have Starlink in Mongolia, right? But it's just all of these countries that are being turned online that want to have Tesla there, not only to sell the cars, but also to obviously bring a factory in their business there. It's going to be really, really exciting to see. So there's some other stuff that happened this week. The Midnight Silver is now free in North America. I was getting really tired of seeing only white Model Ys at the supercharger. So this color is now free, whereas now the white costs $1,000. But really nice to mix that up. Hopefully, I think they've alluded a little bit to the fact that they're going to hopefully release another color pretty soon. Obviously, they did the ultra red on the Model X, but really the 3 and the Y, hopefully they can get some love over here.
In my opinion, that's the best color they offer, the Midnight Silver.
It's not. It's just
in my opinion.
not.
In my opinion, is always right. So
you just stop it now.
Midnight Silver is the greatest color ever created.
It's not.
Yeah, no, it's always up for debate. I personally like the Midnight Silver, so I'm team Midnight Silver. I do like the white as well.
Don't say that, John. I'm not coming anymore. Don't say that.
Oh no. Yeah, we definitely don't want to see that happen, but it's just easier to wash, right? I mean, it's just, that's what it ultimately comes down to for me. And then here's just a couple. Again, I feel like every other tweet is Sawyer, so shout out to Sawyer. But just the Model Y is the best-selling car in Norway, the UK. Again, it's going to be, we know it's the best-selling car in the world, but just, Tesla is continuing its dominance. We saw that obviously with the other chart showing the Model Y and Model 3 sales for all of the EVs. So it's truly just impressive to just, again, watch this company continue to just pound the ground and move forward. So, and then I think there's a couple, I think maybe something else that I wanted to share. This broke earlier today as well. Honestly, I wasn't as impressed. I mean, it's late at this point, so I don't really know what the point. I think I forgot who said it, but at this point, there's no point of the OEMs really even making this announcement, just because you don't really have a choice going forward. I mean, I see states actually enforcing that the NACS is going to be the standard for their state. So at this point, it's just a matter of making the official announcement. But Dalmar is like one of the obviously the biggest auto companies, and they're even one of the reasons why Tesla's still around with their $50 million investment back in, I think it was 2008, 2009. So just really, really cool either way to see, again, the Tesla standard becoming the standard. And it's something that they announced back in 2012.
I think what's interesting about this news is, so when the Ford one broke, what was it, it's like a month ago? It wasn't that long ago. It's something like that. I expected every automaker to announce by the end of the summer, but honestly, it might happen by next week. honestly, 'cause at the rate of change, at the speed of how quickly the rest of the automaker has been announcing this, with I think really highlights the competitive advantage that an automaker has as an EV maker when your charging network is actually up to par. And so what that tells me is that these automakers have been playing at a giant disadvantage this whole time, and they knew it. And as soon as the first domino fell, all the other ones are falling very, very quickly. So the thing, the signal there says is that automakers actually know what they need to do. They just either haven't been able to do it, or they don't know how to. There's just something. There's something in the way of them completing it, which I think highlights the innovator's dilemma, and that a gas car company is not an EV automaker by design. They have all these lessons that they have to go through, even if it's an obvious thing that's, hey, EV needs charging networks. Like, yes, but how do you do that? Who do you partner with? How do you make sure it's reliable? How do you build your architecture to play nice with all the different systems? Do you have this in mind from a software perspective and a UI perspective and the experience of owning an electric vehicle, right? There's so many different layers when it comes to just charging network equation. So anyway, it's the speed at the adoption is a little surprising, but as far as them jumping on board, it's not surprising at all.
Yeah. Totally. Well, I think we're hitting the top of the hour here. So I just wanted to just give a shout out to our amazing guests today. Farzad, thank you so much for just joining and spitting your knowledge. Make sure you go check out his channel. Again, I posted a link to at least his Twitter handle. Same thing with Alexandra. So just make sure you give them a follow. Go subscribe to Farzad's channel and go follow Alexandra. Technically, I guess you could go to both of their Twitter handles and subscribe to them. I'm still waiting, Jeff, for yours.
No, don't subscribe to Farzad, because by subscribing to Farzad, you actually subscribe to me, right? Right? That's how it works, Farzad?
Is that how it works, really? Well, no. What it is your platform is my platform, and my platform is my platform.
No. Your platform is my platform, and at 10 o'clock, I take over your space. You just watch.
Bring it.
You just watch.
Subscriber-only space, 12 p.m. Central. Come join me.
Subscribe to mine.
Exactly. Which I believe is in another hour. So if you're free, go check out Farzad. I recently subscribed to him, so who knows? Maybe I'll join that.
Thank you, brother.
But yeah, shout out to.
And then you help me take over.
I can just mute you, right? I can just kick you out of the space.
You will not.
That's how it works.
You will just not.
Just because you subscribe to me.
That's not how you treat old ladies. That's not what you should do.
You're not old. What are you talking?
But yeah, no. So thank you both for joining and dropping your knowledge, and then obviously the infamous Jeff as well at the Jeff Lutz. So always dropping his amazing knowledge and a regular host here. So thank you all for joining. I did want to do a quick plug. We have the famous May Musk coming to the Tesla Takeover July 29th through the 30th. It's crazy. We've been planning this probably since we've had the date down ever since like probably last June, but it's crazy to think that, we're in the last 3 weeks of planning this event. And really excited for all of the things. So it's going to, have a ton of content sessions, lots of influencers, both Farzad and Alexandra are going to be speaking. Who knows? We're still in the works. Maybe there might even be a small showing of the Tesla Beat. Maybe Jeff, if you're in town, I know you have some personal things going on. There's going to be a ton of customized Teslas, both super modified, not super modified. We have Aptera coming, original Roadsters, unique EVs. There's going to be a whole camping zone. And there's going to be Redwood Materials is going to be there, so you can bring some batteries to recycle. So it's just going to be, again, TeslaTakeover.com. Go check it out. Sandy Monroe, Kim Java, meet Kevin, Ross Gerber, Gary Black, just tons of names that are going to be there. And of course, Sunday, we're going to have May Musk. So check it out, TeslaTakeover.com. It's a community-run event. It's the largest one in North America. So come check it out. It's just going to be a great day to geek out on Tesla and have a bunch of experiential experiences. But yeah, thanks again, everyone, for joining us today and for joining us. So we'll be here next Friday at 8 a.m. PST. Have a good week, everyone.
You too. Bye-bye.